so we know we need to restore a little bit of lateral flexion, and you and I had talked about that. Tracing down to the side, letting the ear line up right with the shoulder. And you might even be able to anchor your hand into a wall so you can also get the whole oblique sling, the QL, meaning your back musculature. So all the core in the back can stretch out. So you can do that against a wall on both sides, tight and untight side, but you want to spend a little more time on the tight side. So that would be one that I would do for maybe 30 seconds on the tight side by 3 to 5. So that'll be number one. We want to restore a little bit of extension, meaning shoulders back, proud chest, in our mid back, probably right around the spot you're experiencing pain. You can see that natural, it's called kyphosis in my back, and it's something that I always have to fight. But for me, it's about pulling my chin back. For you, it might just be about restoring some range of motion through those vertebrae. When those vertebrae, or that junction of vertebrae gets sticky, it oftentimes there's one section or one vertebrae that starts to get really lax, and it takes the brute force of all the movement, right? It becomes overlaxed because the other ones are too stiff. So what I would do is just encourage you to get a roller from Amazon. They're not that expensive. And we've done this a bunch, but nonetheless we'll pop down and let the head drop back. We've also done this on Swiss balls. So one kind of vertebrae at a time, opening up. And it sounds like you have some drills like that to do from the ground, where you push your arms into the ground. So that would be number two. Spend a good amount of time on that, a couple minutes, just extending. Could be something you do and just breathe while we're doing it. I don't know if you have anything at home that you can hang from, but if not, in here would be a really good place to do it. When you get here, maybe do a couple of your stretches and just come down to the rig, get your arms overhead. Any kind of traction that we can put on the spine will be really beneficial for it as well. I have a feeling that where you're experiencing your pain isn't actually what I'll call the root cause of the problem. I think that's just where you're experiencing pain. There's a number of different things that you run through on a holistic lifestyle coaching protocol. We would first look at the psyche and the stress and all of that, because that can manifest itself into pain. We then look at some how your head operates and how your eyes, ears, and mouth and nose operate. A lot of back pain throughout society today is derived from a breathing dysfunction, and Jen's really good in this regard. But I would just encourage you to try, if you're not communicating with anyone, or if you're just working on something, to try active tall posture and then nasal breathing in and out. It will be friggin' tough to start. Nonetheless, so you'll notice right away that your chest will want to be the primary source of breathing, your upper part of your lungs. It's hard for me to try to do it dysfunctional. So if you find yourself kind of getting bigger and smaller and taller and smaller through your breath, then we really need to think about, my phone's on low battery, really need to think about getting the breath down here versus being up here. So just a constant practice of nasal breathing. There are so many studies behind this. This is like something that everyone overlooks, and it's crazy important. Our nostrils have all kinds of different mechanisms in regards to controlling stress. There's little turbines inside of our nose, inside of our cavities, that actually propel things and start the chemical process of our hormones and everything. So it could definitely be a source of pain. Dysfunctional breathing roots really deep. So there's that. Jen mentioned a lot of times when there's any kind of hip twist, and you and I have discovered in here your leg length discrepancy before from a hip shift. It's called an anterior pelvic tilt, but sometimes it only happens on one hip and the other hip gets stuck. And sometimes moving kind of loosens it up, and other times it's kind of stuck like that. But the majority of the time what causes that is this big strapping muscle that comes up in our core and back to our hips called our psoas. Jen has a lot of resources on lengthening the psoas, and opening up the hip through different stretches. And I'll kind of tag her in on the email and see if she'll forward you maybe just some general videos that are already loaded on YouTube, or maybe she can point you in the direction of a website. So we'll go after a psoas stretch. So far we just have our lateral flexion side to side, and again, you can use the wall. We have the foam roller, opening up. We have any kind of hanging that we can do, just again, getting into extension, and then nasal breathing, and Jen will forward you over a psoas stretch.